Hari Om. Jai Shri Radhe Krishna. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter number 2, shloka number 14. mātrā-sparśhās kaunteya śhītoṣhṇa-sukha-duḥkha-dāḥ āgamāpāyino nityās tans-titikṣhasva bhārata. Supreme Lord Shri Krishna says, the contact of senses with objects, O son of Kunti, which causes heat and cold, pleasure and pain, have a beginning and an end. They are not permanent. One must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed, O descendant of Bhārata. It may be countered by Arjuna that he was not grieving for those who have died or are living, but he was grieving for himself, who would be miserable by the loss of his teachers, relatives and friends he admired. This is being perfectly answered by the Supreme Lord in this shloka. Mātrā, tan-mātrā, touch, sound, speech, taste and smell means sensuous experience, and sparśhās means contact with them. Thus, mātrā-sparśhās is the interaction of the senses with the sense objects. Although it is the body that actually experiences these things, anyone with lack of sufficient knowledge considers that they are their body, automatically classifies the soul as the body as well, and this misconception is the cause of all sorrow. Since it is evident that contact with the senses is experienced only in the waking state and not in any other state, it is clear that only when there is contact with the physical body, which includes the mind, there is an effect, and this proves that the individual consciousness itself is not affected. Consequently, when the individual consciousness is deluded into relating to itself as the body, pleasure and pain is experienced. But when the individual consciousness sees itself as separate from the physical body, then the sorrow arising from the death of teachers, relatives and friends would not arise. Joys and sorrows are all responses of the mind to the conducive and non-conducive world around us. They are but mental reactions, thoughts. The object remaining the same, it can give different experience to the same individual at different times or at the same time to different individuals. For example, cold is pleasant at one time and unpleasant at another. Heat is pleasant in winter and not in summer. Food is welcome to a hungry person, but not to the one who has just finished his lunch. A hot cup of coffee or tea, when it is freezing outside, gives us joy, but the same cup of coffee or tea in boiling hot summer will probably not give us the same joy and may give us sorrow. The sense contacts that give rise to feeling of heat and cold, pleasure and pain, favorable and unfavorable experiences come and go, so they are not permanent in nature. Actually, there is no affinity between the self and the unreal pairs of opposites. The more one is able to distance oneself with this assumed affinity and identifies himself with the permanent self, the less one is affected by the agreeable and disagreeable conditions of life. Learn to be the observer of these emotions rather than get identified with them. Mere knowledge of agreeable and disagreeable sense is not bad, but attachment with an aversion to them is a fault. Shri Krishna says, the body, the sense organs and their action have a beginning and an end. But the perceiver, the I, never changes. So the Lord's command is endure them or tolerate them. Titikṣhasva. There is no other way. The two different names to address Arjuna are very significant in this shloka. To address him as kaunteya signifies his proximity of blood relations from his mother's side, and to address him as bhārata signifies his greatness from his father's side. He is a great heritage from both sides, and that brings with it the responsibility to properly discharge duties. Therefore, he cannot avoid fighting. Endure them. Titikṣhasva is one of the great mantras of Gita Shastra, like Shama and Dama, that is, control of internal and external organs. Titiksha or endurance is an absolutely necessary qualification for the spiritual seeker. Hari Om, Jai Shri Radhe Krishna.